All right, guys, I'm back to talk about Isaac. And it was really interesting having to go back to go get those images. And there was some stuff that YouTube wouldn't let me upload. So I'm sorry that I don't have that content, for you. It's really frustrating because I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to be able to have your own opinion about what you think that I'm talking about. So it's very frustrating, for me when I can't give you guys, information. So forgive me for that rant. Um, yeah, but Isaac, and not just Isaac, but the bigger picture that I see going on, within the black, community. And also kind of want to tie this with some manosphere stuff, that I've been looking at, and that I'm really just, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'm asking for help out here. Mr. O'Shea Duke Jackson. Yeah, I listen to his stuff, now. He's an interesting dude. So, Isaac. Isaac said that he'd never been in a serious relationship, with a black woman before. And then for him, as his first relationship with a black woman, to end up married to one, to me, is just a stretch. It really is a whole stretch that my mind just didn't understand. Um, I see a lot of confusion, with him, especially like spiritually, because in one episode you can see a cross that he has cut into his haircut, and then throughout the season you see him with these neck tattoos, and one of them looks like the Eye of Ra, and that's a whole different religion. So it's like he doesn't even know what he believes on a spiritual level. And this is where I fault Cal, and that he doesn't understand that. This is how disconnected Christians are to their own spiritual beliefs, to the point where Cal can't recognize that somebody like Isaac is completely wrong for a spiritual person like Katina. And he has put that woman in danger. That woman is in danger because she has hooked herself up with a demon. And there's just nothing about him that I appreciate or that I trust. Especially when I went back and looked at that where he said that nobody told him. Everybody just stood around and nobody said anything, to him. That would have offended. If I was Dr. Pepper or Dr. Viviana, I would have been offended by that because they did try to say something to him. As far as the castmates, he may have a point, about that, because I actually do feel like they gave him way more credit than they should have been giving him, at the time. And so that was just interesting. I hope for him, honestly, that he really does learn something, from this. He wasn't in love with her. He never fell in love with her. And I think that for him, that was something that he just really wanted. It's like when you have a taste for a particular food, and if it just doesn't carry over that flavor, you just can't make yourself say that it's what rang the bell or would satisfy, that need. And I don't think that Katina does that. As wonderful of a woman, as I think that she is, I just don't think that she does that for him. And that's what I heard from him throughout the season. And he did it. I mean, it was like even when he was saying at the end, on the decision day, it's like it's something in him that cannot just give her a compliment and be done with it and just give her a compliment. There always has to be something, tied to it. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. I often wonder what his family said to him after that season. So, and then one thing too, just off the top of my head, there are these reviewers called Random Guys Podcast. I'm gonna put their information at the bottom for the episodes that I'm thinking about as I'm talking about this. And they were saying that one of them said that the way that he was talking, I think it was on the reunion, that he was still talking like he was the prize. It still had to be about him. Like when he was saying, nobody told him in the proper manner. There was no proper manner. There was nothing that anybody was going to be able to say to him that he was going to listen to. The experts, these are the people that he said, okay, I submit myself to your expertise and I will consider, what you're saying to me throughout this process. And he basically, just told Dr. Pepper to kick rocks when she was trying to talk to him. And he just didn't want to hear it. And he needs to be able to acknowledge that. There's just times when he just does not want to hear information. And that is when he's the most dangerous. Because he's not in his right mind. And you got somebody like Katina, who's just sitting there. Well, this is my husband. Oh, my husband. My husband. Girl. Oh, my goodness. My brain hurts when I think about Katina. And I know she thinks she's being strong. I know she thinks she's being, that faithful wife. It's sad for me. It breaks my heart to see a woman, like her. And because that could have been me. I could have been Katina. I can easily see me being Katina. And I'm just praying for her. I really am. I'm praying for her that if this is a yoke that she want to stay, tied to, that he'll open his eyes and he'll be able to actually be, a human being, and treat her like the human being that she deserves to be treated as. And so it's real tragic. And I heard that potentially they may have gotten, back together. And, for me, where I am right now, even if I disagree with someone, I'm free to let people make their own decisions. So even though I pray for her, I still do. She is a grown woman, and she gets to make her own decisions. I'm not going to sit here and cry and rent my garments, because she decides that she won't stay, in something that is potentially, unhealthy, for her. So the other part of the video is that when I listen to people like O'Shea Duke Jackson, and he has some really good ideas. Like, I actually understand what he's talking about with ownership. And I think that there have been times where he has been able to be objective and his when he admonishes, people in the manosphere. So I can appreciate that duality, of thought. The problem that I have with people like him and other men that just don't want to take responsibility, for themselves, is he talks about his grandfather, a lot. So if his grandfather was so great, why isn't he like his grandfather? Because the man that I hear him describing, I don't see that in him. So whose fault is that? If he says that his grandfather is someone that he looks up to, then why couldn't he be the same kind of man that his grandfather was? If you had that example, walking in front of you. I didn't have that example walking in front of me. I did have examples of my grandmothers, and as I get older, I can see the blending, of them. So, where is his compatibility, and where he feels that he's adopted things that his grandfather, was about? So that would be a question. And then, I do applaud him too for his ability to be able to look within the black community, because this is a problem that I don't think that a lot of black men understand. And then the fact that he's in the manosphere is really interesting as well, because you have people like an Isaac, he's never, been in a serious relationship, with a black woman. But his dad was black. So I don't think that black American men really have any value for their own bloodline. I mean, if you're so casual with your, and in the Bible, they talk about it being the seed, of a man. And as a person, who farms, I have an idea and understanding about what I understand seeds to be able to do. And these seeds have to be implanted within a certain medium in order for them to be of value and use. So for black Christian men, they don't understand that they're supposed to be a peculiar people. But instead, they have decided that they want to be people who are just like the world. But then they want to be able to use the Bible to judge everybody, with it. And then they don't want to judge themselves. They don't use the Bible to actually judge themselves, And that's the whole problem with Christianity at large. Christianity never wants to judge itself. It's continuously giving out judgment to everyone else, but it never wants to judge itself, because it would owe damages. It would owe damages to everybody. It has wronged everybody, especially everybody living today. And if we don't do something about it, everybody that will live tomorrow will be guilty. We'll be guilty of punishing our forebears, the people who are going to come, after us. And, we will, and our progenitors, we will have been the same. It'll be the same soup of what our ancestors, have done, and what we are going to be doing, to the future. If we don't think about our relationships and how much we're supposed to mean, to each other. Now, for me personally, I'm going to take my liberty. I'm looking at black men take their liberty. They don't care about their bloodline. They don't care, to preserve the heritage, that is us. Child, they're going to Brazil. They're traveling all the way to Brazil to go get them women, child, telling us how beautiful and how wonderful Brazilian women are, instead of being able to appreciate the women that are in his own country. And I'm tired of it. And I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity to be free. I spent a lot of my dating, years making myself available to black men. And I'm not going to do that anymore. So I'm going to put divestment as a hashtag, for this video, because I live in Jesus, now. And I want my husband, whoever he should be, to believe in Jesus. And I don't care what race he is. And if that's offensive to black men, I don't care. I don't care. I really honestly don't. And so when I see a guy like Isaac, who looks at superficial things like his education, which, to hear his speech, he really should just back off that. He should back off his thing that he has about his education credentials. And he, the thing I could appreciate when I think about the reunion is that his tone was completely different. His tone was completely different. So it's amazing that it took him having to go on this show in order for him to see himself to a point where he can say, okay, now I get what she was trying to tell me about my tone. Because that was it from the beginning, from the whole honeymoon. And it was like, I told you guys, him and Nate remind me of each other. They don't understand. They think that they are so hot, that they are so desired, that you must want me, that they don't see themselves and they don't know and appreciate when somebody is actually really trying to appreciate them. But that's exactly what they say that they want. So I've been looking at this upcoming Married at First Sight. So like they had the matchmaking, then Kevin Frazier, and then now they're gonna have the wedding episodes. So yeah, I'm looking at all of that information as we start this new season. And I just really hope, I'm always going to be hopeful for love. So I can say that. But let me look at what I have written down here for you guys. I did make some notes. And it kind of goes back, to what I've been talking about. I recognize religion. Black men have killed their own communities. They're killing their own bloodline because they're teaching a fictitious religion. There's no man-made religion that's going to get you to be able to see God. If that's your goal, that you want to see God's face, then no man-made religion is going to get you there. And black men don't understand that. And so when you mix money and religion, it just makes a bad situation. It turns it into something malevolent, something that is corrosive, and that ends up infecting everything around it. And people don't want to understand that. They're so thirsty to be a part of the world that the well that you're drinking out of is poison. So then we have crime and jail, and we need to be able to teach our children and help them so that they don't want to be criminals. I had an experience, this is a story time. I had an experience recently where I was supposed to be meeting one guy, and I was standing there waiting. And this young guy was walking back and forth, And the last time he walked past me, and I'm going to interrupt the story here to tell you guys that he didn't want to rob me. I really feel inside he was going back and forth. That joke was wrestling because he didn't really want to rob me. And that was his first good decision. And the second good decision, that he made is when he took my invitation to come and listen, to what I have to say. So his name is Thomas. And I'm going to ask you, to pray for him and keep him, in your thoughts as you listen to what I am talking about. With him. And the eye contact was chilling. And I've been in San Francisco, like I said, for 12 years, and I've never had that. I've never looked at somebody in their eyes and felt like I was unsafe. And I felt that in that moment. I felt like I needed to be moving my feet toward the bus stop and not being where I was. And something kept me there. And I looked over and we looked at each other, and I told him, I motioned for him to come to me. I told him, come over here, and I pointed. I told him, come in front of me. And I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He was young. He probably was, what, maybe about 19, 20 years old. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing out here? And he said, I'm about to do something bad. I said, what are you getting ready to do? He said, rob somebody. I'm like, no, that is ridiculous. And I told him, come here. And so I pulled him over and I told him something. And I'm glad to be able, to share this, this video. And I hope it really helps, somebody else, out there. And I'm using it, in my own life. So I try not to tell people things that I'm not willing to do, myself. So I told him, I said, look, I'm going to tell you something that I really want you to hear. And I said, stealing is never going to get you what you want. Do not go down that path. And I said to him, I'm going to tell you something that nobody ever told me. And I gave him the opportunity to see the value of a good decision. And so I shared with him a decision I made over 20 years ago that I'm still benefiting from today. And when I ran into hard times in 2008, I lost everything. And so during that time, I actually had a lot of time to think about how it could even, happen, to me. And one of the things I actually learned out of that whole situation is that the benefits, like my medical benefits, I was in a position where I didn't have a job. I didn't know when I was going to be able to get a job. But you know what I had? I had medical benefits. And it was a blessing. It was like a blessing from God. And it was like, wow, that was one of the things I didn't even think I would need, joining the military. But when I didn't have anything, it was a lifeline, for me. And that medical help actually, was a catalyst for me to even be able to have the opportunity to get back on my feet. And so it was an amazing decision. And I go back and forth, about my military service. And like I said, that's another video, but I'm just telling you, that was a result of a decision that I made over 20 years ago. And so I was inviting him to be able to see that with me at his young age. Because if he is 19, 20, years old, he can get that message, then he can start really thinking. I told him, take as much time as you need, as much time as you have, take it to make the best decision that you can. And I did. I told him before you leave me, and I gave him, I gave him the money, that I had on me, and we hugged, and I told him, before you leave, I want you to envision what I just tried to tell you. And I said, imagine you're in a still pond, and you have a rock in your hand, and the rock is a good decision. And then you throw the rock in the pond, and then all of the ripples that come from throwing that rock in the pond are the benefits from making that one good decision. So what if we made 10 of those? I'm telling you about one good decision I made over 20 years ago that I'm still benefiting from today. So I'm trying to make as many of them as I possibly can. And, this is kind of where I live my life, personally, now. And that was a rant, but I hope that it was worth the time, for you guys to actually, listen to me. So I appreciate, your patience. The other thing that I see that Black men have done that has really just show me that they don't care about their bloodline is that we have to lift one another up. So as we become educated, we have to educate. We can't just, that's like that boule stuff that I'm trying to tell you about. So, we got our little information, so we're going to keep it all over here. We're not going to share it with them because they're not as special, as we are. But then how do you expect the population to grow? How do you expect us to become the greatness, that we can be if we're not willing to share and share information and help teach, one another? That kind of limited thinking, stunted, is very a stunted, way of thinking. And when I see men who are just so thirsty to just say and throw away, black women, you throwing away, that's your legacy. So you can go and get your Brazilian woman. But what legacy? What we talk about the kings, of Egypt. So y'all supposed to be the kings, in America, at least princes, under the leadership of King Jesus. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. And when I start seeing it, and I'm always encouraged, even though I'm not available solely for black men, anymore. Do I want to see black men succeed? Yes, I do. Am I closed off to being with the black man? No, I'm not. I love my brothers, but I'm not just available for black men, anymore. And I kind of understand, women who feel like they want to divest. I get it. I mean, for the manosphere men or people, or men who are mad about that, this is the climate. This is the climate that happens. And if you want to stop it, and you want to be leaders, and you want to, get that level of respect, then the men are going to have to step up and get it done. I don't even know what else to tell you. Men like Elijah Wan, I mean, he wants the fantasy, he wants the Cinderella, but he doesn't want to be anybody's Prince Charming. That whole season, that's all I heard out of that joker was me. It was a soliloquy, for himself, what he needed out of the marriage. And, I could never be Katina anymore. I never want to be that, to my husband, ever. I want to love and appreciate, my husband, but I want to give that kind of special reference to someone who deserves it. I mean, he didn't deserve what this woman gave him. Oh my goodness. And, at this point, I don't care whether they're divorced or not. It's her decision. And, yeah, so we're going to get ready for the next season of Married at First Sight. So I hope anybody out there Okay, so I have some stuff that I want to add, so I have to interrupt myself. And anybody who's still hanging with me out there, thank you. I appreciate you. So yeah, just want to touch on the black women that I heard that season with Katina, who sat and just amened the stuff that was coming out of Elijah Wan's mouth. They heard his message and they completely discounted the way that he was delivering it. So there were some things that I understood that he was talking about because it took me 7 years. So I'm a combination of Elijah Wan and Katina. So according to him, he went to college right out of high school, and Katina, instead of being about her business, she went and had fun. And then after she finished having fun, she wanted to get serious, about, now she wants to get serious about her education, when he did that on the front end. So I left school and joined the military. And then after 8 years being in the military, I went and finished and got my degree. But it took me 7 years to do it because I was working, full time at the time, trying to maintain a household, just for myself. And trying to get my credits up and get myself, ready to be accepted into a nursing program. So by the time I finished the nursing program, the total time of it, was 7. So like I said, I see what he's saying. He doesn't want that, what he considers a burden. The thing is that then what is love? I didn't understand his understanding of love. And every time he talked to her about cooking and cleaning, those things are important. I actually agree with him with that. One, because I like to cook. And I like when people enjoy my food. So I would love to be able to cook for my husband and for him to be able to enjoy my food. The thing is, when you have a person like Issac, it's like a demand. And I know where it comes from this patriarchal society, that we live in, that I've been talking about. But then it also just comes from just his own idea about what he thinks he wanted in a wife. And I didn't hear what he was saying that he was bringing to her as a husband. I heard the financial part. Well, yeah, I don't mind taking care of the house if I'm happy. If I'm satisfied, then yeah, I don't mind paying the bills. Or I don't mind shoveling the snow. The snow is for her to get out of the driveway too. It ain't just for you to go to work. She might need to go to work, too. This is for the functionality of the household. I'm not just washing his clothes because, of some slavish need to wash his clothes. I'm washing his clothes because I'm going to need him to be able to have something to put on so he can get up and go and do whatever he needs to do for the household. We're doing this together. So what I'm doing for one, I'm also doing it for myself. And I just didn't hear that from him. And I didn't hear that from the women who were reviewing the show that year. I invite you to go back and listen to them. It was disgusting. And this is how black women have stayed in abusive relationships. Because they get this kind of, bad information from black women. And, look at a person, like Precious, where her mother was jealous of her own daughter because her husband wanted her daughter more than he wanted her. That's kind of sickness. There's a sickness in the black community that people just don't want to talk about. And I'm here to bring it out because Katina and her whole situation and listening to all of that mess that season triggered something inside of me. And it was disgusting. And it just really solidified and really just made me jump up and down that I'm not a Christian anymore. And that I have the ability, to think and understand things, for myself. Free and independent, of that madness. And I wanted to be able to also piggyback on what I was saying about capitalism and people like O'Shea Duke Jackson who believe in capitalism. He believes in ownership, which is good, but he also believes in capitalism. And I would counter, us as a diaspora. Because we're all over the globe. This is not just about an American diaspora. This is, we're everywhere. And we should be caretakers of the planet. And that is stewardship. So I invite you, if you have a heart, for stewardship, to, really ponder and study it. And then, for those who are spiritually inclined, to pray about it. Because it's really an important job. And it's the counter to capitalism. So if you want to be here and you want to make a difference, I think, and stand, for something bigger and greater, than yourself, then become a steward. That's also a job. The Lord is hiring. People act like Lord, doesn't provide, for people. The Lord has a job, that He can give people as well. And if we really challenge our government, we can actually do something to counteract the catastrophic effects that we're all now suffering under from the effects of capitalism. And so I wanted to be able to put that in here. I also wanted to kind of put the question of, as much as I appreciate that the tone of Issac, changed, I still wonder if it was produced. Because when I listened to Kevin Frazier in my mind again, he sounded produced. There were some things that he was saying, like, "Oh, this is my wife, and I love her." He specifically said that he wasn't in love. If you go and look when they were playing volleyball and he was talking mad junk against Dr. Pepper, he said that he wasn't in love. And that was only a couple of weeks or even a week, before decision day. So he wasn't in love. And then with Kevin Frazier, which I really wish that Married at First Sight would replace with somebody more competent and able, because he did the bro thing. He did a bro thing with Issac, and I actually don't appreciate it because he was not in love with her when he said that on that day when he was talking about Dr. Pepper. He wasn't in love with her on decision day, and he's not in love with her today. That men, especially men such as himself, that came up during a certain age, in order for me to really believe that Issac is no longer, and she is now living with Elijah, he would actually have to tell me about an experience he had with Jesus Christ. And short of that, he does not love this woman. And that's just my opinion, on it. So, for people who are spiritually or, biblically, inclined, I would invite you to just go to Google and put in Nehemiah. There's a book in the Bible. The name of it is Nehemiah. So you put that book in, and then you put in wives. So you put in Nehemiah wives. And this is the kind of stuff that Christian men don't want to look at. They go blind to it. So then you have people like O'Shea Duke Jackson. Oh, the manosphere. Oh, if women don't get their stuff together. Oh, if this, that, and the third. Oh, such and such and such. And see, this is why you are a joke, because you don't even understand your own text. Okay? You cannot serve two masters. So you're either going to be a slave to capitalism, or you're going to be a slave to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Either way, you're going to be a slave. And people who are slaves have to coalesce and understand that we're all in the same basket. Yeah, I work for the Lord, but you know what? He makes sure that I rest on the Sabbath day. You got Christians that will fire you if you tell them that you don't want to work on Sunday. They'll have a problem with you because you don't want to work on Sunday. And they're supposed to be here to protect one day out of the week that people don't have to worry about working unless it's for emergency purposes. But we don't have that in America. We don't, and now it's spreading all over the world. That it's going to come a day because Christians don't want to protect that. They don't want to protect that for themselves. And when they protect it for themselves, they protect it for everybody else. There's going to come a day that capitalists are going to make you work 7 days a week. And it's going to fall right at their feet because they didn't want to be obedient to the very religion that they swear that they are an allegiance to. So, enough of my soapbox. Like I said, if you stay with me this long, I appreciate it. I think I have it. Let me see. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I want to say too to men out there that manhood is really sexy. It really honestly is. I don't think that men have encountered enough men to really understand what the aroma of a solid man looks like. You know, a solid man can still be in his manhood. Y'all can still go out there and wrestle snakes and, break horses and, do whatever it is that you need to do, But you can also understand people other than yourselves. That includes animal life, and it also includes your mates, the other, children, women in general, not just your mate, but just women in general, women at large. And I think that would actually help you pick a better mate, So I wanted to put that in there. Another thing I wanted to finish with is my idea about what I was saying about how I invite Black Christians to really think about what white Christians about. Look at this mess that's going on in Mississippi. I bet you Brett Favre considers himself a Christian. And I think Skip Bayless, he said his wife is Jewish, but he's something else. So they have like a mixed religious, relationship. But yeah, so he's not Muslim, so he has to be Christian. But yeah, you look at white Christianity and how it responds to Black Christianity. There should be none of that. There is no separation in Christ. There is no Black Christianity and white Christianity. We're all one under the umbrella of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And anybody who does not understand that is a danger. They have the potential to be nationalists. They have the potential to be authoritarians. And they have the potential to snatch us straight into the Handmaid's Tale. So, thank you for any consideration. And I'll talk to you guys.